Right. Okay, where do I begin with this? I mean, this is probably not what you were expecting right now, but I need to get stuff off my chest, and to be honest, right now I'm hurting a lot, and I'm upset, and what's happening is probably going to, I don't know, shock maybe some people. It shouldn't do. We've had these conversations, but certainly from people who are not inside the community, certainly might seem a little bit out there. I want to begin, first of all, just turning around and saying that there's going to be a lot of great episodes coming out soon from the guys on the Unorthoblocks. And by all accounts, everyone seems to be, or most people seem to be having a great time. They have enjoyed this. This has been their favorite restart into a season. And I know there are a lot of really awesome creators on the Unorthoblocks server. And that there's been a lot of hard work that's gone into it by the admin behind the scenes. And there's been a lot of strife over the last few years behind the scenes. And the community has sailed through it. They have done very, very, very well. And I'm very proud of what they've done. They've done a really good job in getting to where they are. And they've really now meshed after all of these instances and issues and things that have happened. So when I go into the rest of what I'm about to talk about, I don't want you to be thinking, actually, this is the fault of anyone here on Unorthoblocks. It's not. It's just circumstances. It's just situation. It's just where I come into it all and how I feel about it all. And these are my feelings. This is not to invalidate anyone else's feelings. This is not to turn around and say that, these guys shouldn't be enjoying themselves. They should absolutely. They deserve to have a good start to a new season. But for me, this has been the worst start of a season. And it affirmed fears that I had going way back, that I'm no longer really part of this community anymore. I'm an outsider. I'm stick my neck out sometimes, and because I wanted to turn around and make things work. And when I saw problems, I would raise them and highlight them. But in return, that's kind of made me a bit of a target on my own back, I feel. And maybe it's just myself, maybe it's just my own self-perception, I don't know. But all I can talk about is how I feel and what's going through my mind at the moment. What you're seeing on screen at the moment is basically the beginning of my Season 4. And you'll notice that as other people's content comes out, that they had these great interactions, they're all off in their groups and they're enjoying themselves. And for me, I'm here on my own, alone, apart from everyone else. And it's not the responsibility of anyone else to include me into a group or to involve me. And I realize that, yes, I am quite the introvert, though I can be quite outspoken at times. I am very much an introvert and very much struggle with that. I find large groups incredibly overwhelming unless I'm taking a lead. Always has been the way. I go to a concert, I hate standing in the middle of a concert crowd, yet I will happily be the one up the front performing. And it's the same with anything I've really done. The larger the group, the more voices there are, the more conflicting it becomes. And I struggle with it. And I get quieter, and I sink into the background. And then because everyone is there, they all start splitting in their own groups, and I just feels like it's like being back in school again, I'm 45, and this is like being back in school. It's back to that time of being the last one to be picked, waiting on the sidelines because you don't feel like you're anything special and nobody sees you that way either. at least in your head. But yeah, everyone splits into their own groups, and by all accounts, everything you hear is everyone's had a great time, and it's amazing. And I spent the next several hours on my own, feeling very much alone, feeling like, why am I playing multiplayer? I could just be playing single player right now. The thing is, this isn't something that's new. This is cropped up because of the continued history behind the scenes of Unorthoblocks. For those who don't know, I joined Unorthoblocks 6 months into the first season. And I was very happy, very proud to be invited in. And I got very involved, got very stuck in, and grew to very quickly love the community, the people in it, even though we were a small content creator server. To the point where, at one point, I got asked to be an admin. And I enjoyed that, and I hope that I made a difference back at that time. And it was difficult. First seasons of servers are very difficult anyway. A lot of servers don't survive their first season. And there were points where it felt like it was only me and maybe a couple of others who actually spent any time on the server towards the end there of the first season. But we carried it through, we got it there, we got it going, but there was an incident which ended up with me dropping out from being an admin. I nearly left Unorthoblocks completely. And I don't blame the other party who was involved in it. They had their point of view, directions they were taking. And they were certainly going through some stuff of their own. And I don't think that's details that need to be necessarily heavily shared. But I could see where there was questions and things that weren't being discussed with the community. And I had taken a little bit of a step out for a month or two. I'd been going through some stuff in my own life. And I come back into the middle of the storm of this, where things were just basically being thrust onto the community without consultation. So I felt I had to speak up. And in return for speaking up, then I became a bit of a target. And yeah, it resulted in us both leaving. I got invited back, but it was on the condition that I don't do admin again, because it hurt. It stung. It stung quite considerably. Season 2 came along, and Season 2 was, again, a chance for a fresh start. And we did have a fresh start, but again, the same issue cropped up. I think if you look at the Season 2 world, an awful lot of that world was my input on it, because I was the only one really in there putting a lot into it. It's not to say others didn't. It's not to say others didn't have content on there. They didn't do things on there. They did. But certainly in terms of the amount of stuff that went on there, Season 2 was quite a quiet season for most of us. And again, I just feel like I put a lot into that. But it was otherwise just a general quiet, nice season. And then Season 3 occurred. And now, you look at the Season 3 world, it is gorgeous, it is beautiful. We've had some amazing content creators come on board, along with the originals and the people who have been here from previous seasons. And it's done amazing stuff they did in Season 3. But there were problems behind the scenes. And those problems drove a wedge straight through the heart of our community behind the scenes. So much to the point that some of the other stronger voices backed away a bit from Unorthoblocks. And I quite often felt I was the only strong voice left. The problem was that when you become the strong voice and you're trying to sort of speak out against some of the things that you see are going wrong, you become a target. After all of this came about and we were discussing and it all came to a head, it was revealed to me that people were literally being told to stay away from me on the server. And that hurt. That really, really hurt. Because I was already starting to feel very alone, very isolated, and feeling like I was the only one standing up for what was right, and going back to saying, look, we got to get community input in this and we've got to hear everyone's voices. And yes, I will make my voice heard if I need to. If I have a counterpoint, then I will make it, because if I don't make that counterpoint, there could be others who do have that same counterpoint and struggle to hear that counterpoint. But by doing this, it literally made me feel like I'm more of a target again. The issue that we had then got resolved. It was sorted out. It was a very hard time for the community. It really was on Unorthoblocks. And I'm very proud of the way that everyone got through it and dealt with it. They shared, they came together, they merged. The problem was that the wedge that had been driven between me and the community by me speaking out against these things, even though it was right to do at the time, means that I now was even more feeling driven and split apart from the community. I voiced these things, I mentioned them before, and I was hesitant about joining Season 4 of Unorthoblocks. I was umming and ahhing about whether I want to be a part of it or not, because I felt so isolated, so out on the limb. I'm doing multiplayer because I want to be involved with others. I want to turn around and be part of a community. And there were some ideas batted around. There's some really exciting ideas that we had, and I certainly had, for Season 4. And in the end, I decided, actually, let's see how it goes. Let's see how Season 4 goes. And so I threw myself into finishing Season 3. And I really like what we did with Season 3. I was, despite the ups and downs and the strife behind the scenes, we had the crossover with the Igniters. We had things that went on that were absolutely amazing. Some of the best builds ever. And I'm not just talking about stuff that I've done. I'm talking about the stuff that other people did. The villages that were, whole towns that were built. There was the whole Zen gardens. It's some of the most stunning. This is probably, Season 3 was probably one of the most stunning seasons we ever had. But I understand that for some, it was difficult. And because of the strife that had gone on, and people were very quick and ready to get on with Season 4. And I don't blame them, because you want to put the past behind you. And I can agree with that. There are bits that are in that Season 3 that are reminders of that past that people don't want around. But my fear about Season 4 was that divide and wedge that I felt between me and the community might grow, might become more. And I am feeling it more and more. On day 1, I put away 4 hours to come out and play. Essentially, I logged off after 3. I was mostly on my own. Left to my own devices again, and it's hard for me to reach out and ask for help sometimes and say, hey, can I be a part of something? And it's not on others to do it either. And to me, that just says we're not merging, we're not meshing anymore. And it came to a head. There's it's such a silly thing for me, but there's a ritual that I sort of do at the beginning of every season. And it's quite important to me, very, very important to me. Even though it's like a silly superstition, and I won't go into the details of it. And for anyone else who would hear about it, they'd think it's just the most silliest thing. It is the most stupid thing to be talking about and actually to be upset about. And really, for me, this was just that. Essentially, what happened was I went to do the ritual, and it was basically denied. And to me, that just showed how much of not a part of Unorthoblocks I now am. I've been trying to spend the last couple of days getting my head into it, doing stuff on there. But I feel so demotivated from where I was just a few days ago. I had fears coming up to this, but I threw myself into it. I rebuilt everything. I've even built templates. Look, I'm going to put it up on the screen. I got all these different animations I built for the new season, because I wanted to turn it around and make something out of it. I took a week off work to come and have a good start into the season, and I'm here 3 days in, feeling like I don't belong here. I've loved this server. I really threw all of my ore into it. And to the point where I would stand up and speak out when I felt like things weren't right. And I quite often got tacked back for it. And this isn't against people who are on it at the moment. Some of this is past people. But it's got to the point now where it feels like, for me to carry on, it's just like I'm a troublemaker in the corner. For speaking out. I'm in the way. I'm a product of a bygone era. I love the server. I love the community that's in it. And I want it to carry on. Just don't think it's going to be with me.